Dear friends, grace and peace from God our Father and from our newborn Savior, Jesus the Christ. Amen. And she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. Now, the word inn is just the old spelling of the word inn. If you're in an inn, well, you're inside. And if you are not in, well, you're out. And so, because there was no room for them in the inn, Joseph and Mary were out. They were left outside, and there for their newborn son to be born out, not in. All of us knows what it feels like to be left out. Children know what it feels like in games and activity. Who likes to be in that mob and then two team captains are picking somebody and you're the one who they always pick last? Well, you know what it feels like to be out. Or how about those teenage moments of great despair? I remember one myself, actually. The group of friends I had, one of them was having a party, and my invitation never came. And oh, was this the end of the world? I remember hearing all of them talking about it, and I wasn't going to go. I certainly felt left out. And adults know what this is as well, to be excluded. Sometimes we're excluded by some family members. Sometimes it's a community around us who, for whatever reason, feels like we're not part of the group. We know what it means to be in, and we know what it means to be out. This isn't my favorite Christmas carol, and it's nowhere to be found in the lessons and carols tonight, but have any of you heard this Christmas carol, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, lately? You probably have if you've been in a shopping mall. And even though it doesn't speak about a baby named Jesus, it does talk about one of the central themes of this Christmas story. It talks about being left out, not being invited in. Rudolph was different from all of the other reindeer because his nose was red and glowing. And he was ostracized because he was different. And they wouldn't let poor Rudolph play in the reindeer games. Do you remember that part of it? Well, the song goes on to tell how Rudolph turns out to be an asset, the hero of the story, because Santa Claus was making his rounds, and through the thick fog, it was Rudolph and that bright nose that was able to lead them through. And Rudolph then was welcomed in. I think this song is so popular because there is something deep down in all of us that we have felt left out. We were chosen last. The party invitation never came. And remember that party invitation? You know, it was so devastating. But when I look back on it now, it is one of the treasures of my life. I was so devastated, and usually it was my mother who came to do some comforting. But this time, it was my father. And I had never experienced this before. He sat down on the bed and he listened and he told me that this will come and this will go. And I treasure that to this day, my father's presence and comfort and help. And it is so much more significant than a party that, well, I only remember it because of what my father did that night. You see, every person in this world is necessary and beautiful and gifted in their own ways. Even if it seems like nobody seems to care or notice. And this is crucial for our Christian faith. We all come from one set of parents. It is the center of this story of Christmas. It is centered of the crucifixion. Father, forgive them all. And it is at the heart of what Pentecost, what the church is all about. Remember all of those nations, maybe you stumble over them when you're reading them on Pentecost, and Mesopotamia and Cappadocia and Cyrene and all of the regions there. Yes, we should be doing all that we can to promote justice and equality and respect for every person, no matter where they come from or how much they have, or what color of skin they may have, because there is something deeper and that we all share, this spiritual longing for the fullness of life. We want to be included. We want to be in, not out. And so with our souls, we know that life eventually does exclude us. And even if we have the fullest and most prosperous of lives, it will come in sickness and finally in death, that we will be excluded. We know that we came from the earth and that we will eventually return to the earth. And that fear that there is no room for us in life or in death is real as we ponder life and death here in this place. The birth of Jesus directly addresses this feeling that we have had and maybe have tonight. For Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus, there was no room in the world for them. They were put out behind the inn in a cowshed. But as you look at the life of Jesus, he is on the outs from the very beginning. He is going to minister to all of the people who the world had said no to. And he is the one who brought them in. And he dies absolutely penniless and naked, nothing left. And the world has done its best to put him out. He was born an outsider, surrounded by outsiders, and his poor and frightened mother and Joseph were surrounded by animals and their manure. And there were some dirty, unknown, rejected, not kosher shepherds who come and watch. But that outside stable is exactly where God came for you and me as well. It is the entry into the kingdom of heaven. God sent his Son not to a palace or a mansion or even a holiday inn, but to a place outside. And there was no room for them in the places of this world. So God begins his story in human flesh on earth out, rejected from the very beginning. So where are you tonight? Standing outside some social circle of acceptance? Where are you tonight? There's some anger and frustration in family or with friends. You're wanting it to be better, wanting to be inside. Are you standing outside of some circle of popularity, weeping because you've been excluded? Are you standing outside of the inn of the happiness that the world teaches us about in every advertisement on television, radio, and the computer, hoping that some way that will be unlocked? If that's what you're hoping for, you're standing in front of the wrong inn. So let us go this night to another inn, to a stable where the world forced Mary and Joseph and Jesus to be born. And there in that inn, with the manure on the floor and the animal smells, and probably a little cold, we can leave our tears and our fears, because it is where God comes to us in this world. And as we gaze at the Christ child, where the world put him in a cattle feed trough instead of a crib, we see him as God entering into this world. Entering into this world where, as St. Paul says, that God's weakness is greater than the strength of all this world. And there, in that place, outshines all of our earthly desires. So if we're resting comfortably in the inns of this world, that bill comes due sooner or later. This night we've gathered here because we look to the one who was put out. We look to Jesus Christ, God coming as the outsider in order that all may be brought in. Amen.